much to the program director this morning. I'm sorry that I'm saying tonight when it's during the day. And indeed, it is a pleasure to join all of you in this Congress 2021. I would like to acknowledge the Agri SA board, the Agri SA executive management, as well as the staff of Agri SA and the provincial structures of the organization. The agricultural industry and agribusiness leaders present, colleagues from academia, fellow ministers in attendance, Minister Kodan and Chrissy, farmers from across the country, ladies and gentlemen, as well as members of the media present and those that are joining us online. Good morning. It is a great honor indeed for me to be joining Agri SA 2021 Congress, an important event to interact with all major stakeholders on the agricultural sector. Despite the state of the pandemic, we have ensured that your annual engagement with the constituency is not lost. It was a year ago in this very Congress that you deliberated upon the issues of digitization in agriculture and how the deployment of technology can advance the operations in the sector. I'm aware that most of you, within your limited resources, are doing your best to meet the challenges of the time. The other important matter on your agenda last year was about the growth of the agricultural sector in the midst of the pandemic. We also, as the sector, reflected on the changing weather patterns that we have been experiencing and that has impacted negatively on some commodities, indicating the need for us as a sector to do more in making our contribution in developing smart agriculture, as well as developing conservation agriculture. Agricultural financing was another major issue of our concern given the challenges in the Land and Agricultural Bank. Rural safety and farm killings of both farmers and farm workers was another matter of concern, which continues to be a matter of concern even to this day. And I would like us to take a moment to remember those farmers and farm workers who've lost their lives during this year, the past year, and many other years. I say this because they remain to be the bedrock of supporting our agricultural industry. The other important matter that was discussed by Congress last year was the issue of market access in the midst of the pandemic and the agility of all of us to adapt to the new normal formed some of the issues that the Congress deliberated on and actually map out some strategies on how we can move forward. I've captured all of these issues discussed in your last Congress, not because I think nor believe we have forgotten them, but because they remain critical and relevant to this very day. As we reflect in this Congress about the outlook of the agricultural sector, its future during the pandemic, it is important that we strengthen our partnerships between government as well as the industry. I want to begin by acknowledging the great work that all of you joining us here today have done for the country since the pandemic started. The collaboration between the private sector and government in ensuring the continuous operation of agriculture and food value chains at the height of various waves of infections enabled our country to have stable food supply. The decision to make sure that agriculture is an essential service allowed the sector to operate and thereby providing much needed food security to our nation and regionally. Through partnerships, we were able to ensure that we develop electronic certification between us and our trading partners to allow for trading even during these conditions. Even when there were challenges between government, particularly, and the industry to make sure that we resolve those, we have been assisted by some of our sister departments, such as international relations, to make sure that those challenges can actually be escalated and be resolved at some of those levels to ensure that good passage for our goods to the trading partners still take root. We continue to look and retain market access in a number of destinations. We're looking at how we can maximize the opportunities created by Africa Continental Free Trade Area. We also are looking at opportunities in other greenfields, meaning the markets that we have not been playing before, because of the interest that has been expressed by a number of those companies in those destinations, but also consumers at large. I'm aware that currently we do have an expo taking place in Dubai, both physically and electronically, where some of you are actually participating in exposing your wares so that we can actually attract those consumers to be able to buy from South Africa. This expo will be continuing from now in October to next year, about February. And I hope that some of you will be able to take part at any given stage. And I would like to thank the DTIC for the partnership in this regard with ourselves and the industry. A number of our subsectors have done very well. We've noted that some of those, such as citrus, have actually continued to perform very well. The grains have also done us proud. There are many other sectors, subsectors of our agricultural sector that have continued to actually do more and resilient during these challenges of the pandemic. We want to ensure that we can stay the course and even make the sector to perform better. I want to thank my colleagues, the ministers present here and others not here, for having been partners with the agricultural sector and the industry. I want to actually note the work that we've done with Minister Godan, particularly in ensuring that we continue the engagement of how we can improve port infrastructure to allow ease for our goods. I want to thank you, my colleague, Minister Godan, for your efforts in this regard. You have enabled us to engage with your Transnet officials, Portnet, and many others to really look at various worlds on how we can actually improve. I must say that during the disruptions of the violence during the July month, you and some of my colleagues really came to the party. We made sure that we open up the N3 as well as the N2 to allow for the movement of goods and therefore stem food insecurity threats that were looming. It is this form of partnership that, in my view, the presidency of President Cyril Ramaphosa has actually been anchored to make sure that as South Africans from all walks of life, we can actually work together to ensure that we build our economy and build our country so that we can have stability and enjoy the freedoms that we had fought for. This period, I must say though, was not without difficulties. Some of the regulations during the pandemic has actually caused some disruptions in some of the subsectors of our economy. The logistical challenges have actually continued to cause some challenges and add cost to our farmers, particularly in the ports as well as in the railway lines. When such glitches happen, there is a cost to the farmer. We want therefore to say, we know that you have been impacted upon over the past year and even during this year, but that does not mean government is not taking these issues seriously and trying to find ways in which we can resolve them. We do. And I would like to appreciate how we have been able to work with you even on the most difficult time. Over the past year, the continuous interaction that my office have had with the Agri SA executive as well as some commodity organization and AGBs, have ensured that we're able to respond to some challenges speedily in order to ensure that the sector is supported. This collaboration, along with farmers' confidence in South Africa's agriculture, which is displayed through investment and increased plantings, has ensured that agriculture grew by 13.4% in the year 2020. Various analysts, such as the Bureau for Food and Agricultural Policy, commonly known among us as BFAP, as well as AGBs, estimate that the sector could experience another year of 6 to 7% growth in 2021. This also means that agricultural employment would likely remain at levels above the long-term average of 850,000. The 8 agricultural industries have also benefited from this positive agricultural growth momentum. We continue to observe solid agricultural machinery sales, which speaks to the healthiness of our sector's finances, at least in the near term. I must acknowledge, however, that while the picture is broadly optimistic about our sector, some of the members, specifically in the wine and beer industry, had taken some knocking. They've had a challenging period following the choices we had to make at a particular time of saving lives and livelihoods. I want to appreciate, though, that the way in which we've worked, even when it has been difficult, we've never stopped to communicate and look at other ways in which we can work together to stem the tide. Yesterday, for instance, I had an engagement with Distel to also look at what they are doing to make sure that we can promote healthy drinking amongst our society so that we do not actually have such challenges in the future. I've also looked at how they are contributing as a sector on the transformation agenda and making sure that they bring in at a primary level, but also at agribusiness level, some of the historically excluded communities to participate. Our hope is that the opening of the economy would allow the sectors to recover and that export opportunities will add momentum to this recovery path. The constrained fiscal conditions have limited our ability to assist these sectors in their recovery path. Still, we will continue engaging with industry leaders in this space to look at what we can do more to support, even if it means is non-financial support that we can give for the recovery. I would like to thank government, particularly my colleagues in the finance industry, who have made it possible to ensure that we're able to support those industries, including the agricultural sector that was affected as a result of the unrest in KZN and in some parts of Gauteng. Those interventions through that recovery that was announced by the president will go a long way in ameliorating some of the challenges that the sector has experienced. As you will all remember, in October 2020, President Ramaphosa launched the country's economic reconstruction and recovery plan, and agriculture is part of those sectors that need to contribute to the recovery and job creation of our country. Over the past few months, we're focused on several interventions to position agriculture as a critical sector for economic recovery. I know that Minister Godan has been asked to speak on this matter, but it is important for me to indicate that we are continuously working in this sector to actually look at how we deal with issues of transformation as well of growing the agricultural sector in its entirety. I must commend Agri SA's executive and its commodity groups for tirelessly engaging in drafting the agriculture and agro-processing master plan. And I just hope that sooner in November, at least we'll see some of the positive in the sector's coming together to actually agree not only on the vision statement, but also on what in earnest we can do to grow the various subsectors of our economy. I would like also to thank amongst you some of the members who have been working with us who have taken retirement, even though not quite, such as John Purchase and Yanni de Villiers, for the sterling work that they've been doing, particularly in supporting the agriculture and agri-sector master plan. This plan, in our view, should build on value chains approach to provide targeted support to farmers of all types and sizes. More importantly, it needs to expand on the district development model to ensure poorly developed agricultural areas, such as in communal areas of Limpopo, KwaZulu-Natal, and Eastern Cape, attract public and private investments in order for them to actually develop. We know that in the Eastern Cape, for instance, that's one of the areas where we've got opportunities for growing our livestock. And I think the industry would actually look at how we can do, particularly in the red meat industry, in that part of the country, to actually harness the latent skill as well as resources that are there. I'm also heartened that from the other side of government, particularly on the competition policy, they are also assisting us to look at how better we can actually use some of those instruments to support the industry. We've seen that particularly with regards to the poultry industry last year. And we are looking at how we can take advantage of the poultry master plan to make sure that we actually increase market access through the work that we're doing together with the industry. I know that there's another issue that is of our concern, how we actually ensure that our land reform becomes effective and actually translate to inclusion of more people into the agricultural sector, particularly those who have been historically disadvantaged. We're looking at how we can actually harness some of the work that is done by the industry, particularly PALS, and some of the initiatives where farmers are looking at how best can work together at a local level to actually develop solutions that will ensure access to land for those who had been historically marginalized. And I would like to encourage those initiatives and also look at how we can strengthen our policy instrument as government to be able to ensure that land reform as an imperative for all of us as a country does not create tensions and conflicts amongst various stakeholders at local level, but rather we should all be worried about how we can ensure that we bring access, we ensure that we support those who are already on the land in order for them to succeed. In closing, let me thank the leadership of Agri SA and the broader organized agricultural community for working with government so brilliantly over the past year to sustain this vital sector. I hope that we can continue this collaboration and implement all the growth plans we have that has been drafted in our master plan to address unemployment and in the process ensure that there is transformation in the sector and that there is growth in the sector and it becomes the future of our country. I'd like to wish all of you a successful Agri SA Congress 2021. I thank you.